Welcome to the Know Your Ship podcast, presented by eHub. I'm your host, Frank Dolce. This is a good place to start. Welcome back to the podcast. I can't wait to introduce our guest today because I knew you when you were just a punk kid.
Yep.
Working sales with a local logistics company.
What a time.
And we always said that is a really solid company, but that guy Relf,
not a solid guy.
No future. He's never going to amount to anything.
It's a fair assessment. Totally.
Yeah. Are you a Supersonics fan?
Oh, yeah. So I was born in Seattle. My dad's from Seattle. His whole family's from Seattle. So I have Seattle ties.
Gotcha.
But I've grown up in Sandy Draper my whole life.
Okay. So Alta High School.
Went to Alta High School. Go Hawks.
I mentioned this. You look like a baseball player. Yeah. And you got the tone.
Your tone's offensive.
You got my tone.
Yeah.
Because when people say that, if you say like you look like a football player, then
brave,
that's a
heroic,
courageous.
Yeah.
You play on the gridiron.
Yeah.
I mean,
take a bullet for someone.
Yeah. If you say you're like a hockey player, then people are like, oh,
selfless.
Man, that guy.
Yeah. You want that guy in a dark alley.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And when you say I played baseball, what are the responses that you get?
Cocky usually.
Right. Yes.
Who knows why? It's a dying sport. Not sure what we're all cocky about.
Pretty boy,
sure.
Yeah.
It looks great in those pants though.
Absolutely. The knock against baseball that you always hear, and golf too.
Yeah. But I love golf, which is hilarious.
I know.
I've graduated.
Golf's a great sport.
Yeah.
but you don't necessarily have to have a super athletic body type.
Fair.
To be really successful.
Yeah. Different kind of explosive movements. The swing's pretty explosive. So
yeah, definitely.
Works in both.
Definitely.
But everything else, agreed.
And if you go down the Barry Bonds route, then you can become really explosive.
I mean, that was when baseball was fun though.
I know. It's so true.
That saved the sport.
The home run. It did. The home run race.
Yeah.
And I even flew to San Diego to watch Sammy Sosa.
Wow.
Or maybe have a chance at breaking the record, which he didn't. He went like 0 for 4, of course.
Yeah.
That day. By the way, just in case people don't know, Dime Beauty. You founded Dime Beauty along with several other companies. And I hope we'll get to talk about all of those things that led up to Dime Beauty. But now that I'm thinking of Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire, did you ever think about maybe transitioning into performance enhancing? Like Dime, PEDs.
You know, why not? It makes the game more fun. We were just talking about how to save baseball. Maybe we need to allow steroids in just baseball. That'll
I don't disagree.
Sport.
I don't disagree because the games right now the are too long.
Yeah.
But there's nothing like going to a baseball game.
Yeah,
sitting in the park, having a hot dog,
food,
peanuts, all this stuff. 7th inning, but it's a long. You have to be committed.
Yeah, you look at the scoreboard, you're like 4th inning.
Yeah,
we've been there for 2 hours.
I'm still not even close to the 7th inning stretch, and it just doesn't move along.
It doesn't.
And they've taken some of the excitement out of it. So some of the insight in how to make baseball better has been allow hockey fighting rules.
Yeah.
If someone gets hit by a pitch or there's a close play at the plate or first base or something, I think that would bring people in.
It'd be great. I mean, look at baseball in the 90s when it was like at its hottest. There was fights all the time. People sliding in, breaking up double plays.
Yes.
Cleats up, I mean, that
Studs
stuff was exciting. We liked it.
Same with basketball. Like I think basketball has become
it's a little soft.
It's so soft. I can't watch it.
I agree.
But back in the day, Charles Barkley, Jordan, Larry Bird, the bad boys, like
it was the time.
Yeah, Bill Laimbeer, rough. Anyway, we're getting off track. Let's get back.
It's a sports podcast.
We should do that. Let's get back to your stuff. Okay, you were born in Seattle, grew up here in Sandy.
Yep.
You had a passion for baseball. Did you think I'm going to be a baseball player when I grow up?
I totally did. So my oldest brother, so I'm one of 5, grew up 7 of us in a 1,900 square foot house.
Nice.
Most of my childhood shared a bedroom with two of my brothers, and all four, so one sister and then four boys, all four of us played baseball at a high level competitively. That was our life. We didn't, my dad was a hard worker, software sales for most of what I knew him for. He was a chef before, which is pretty cool. He's still a fantastic cook.
Oh, nice.
And my mom didn't really work. And so kind of that like typical American type family and middle class. And, baseball was everything. We didn't take vacations for fun. We traveled for baseball. So our vacations were just baseball tournaments out of the state. And that was just the normal for us. And when we were home, it was wiffle ball in the backyard. It was playing baseball video games. It was just, that was all in consuming with our lives.
Yeah, with everyone. That's awesome.
Yep.
And that's, to be honest, I've lived that with my kids and my family. I did that growing up as well. And I wouldn't change it. Like that was the best, to go to tournaments.
That was awesome.
And to have that opportunity and the experience with all of your teammates. And it's a great way to grow up.
It totally is.
There's no doubt about it.
Yep.
But at some point, all of us have to retire.
Totally.
And like, it sounds like we ended up in the same boat. We were forced to retire because we didn't have the skill to keep going.
I mean, your career was more successful than mine. I mean, for me, played in high school, and I had a good high school career. All of my brothers did. And out of high school, I went on a church mission, like many do here. I went to the Dominican Republic, which is like
the baseball
capital of the world.
That's
so
right.
I was like, God is telling me I'm going to be a professional baseball player, because literally
he does work in mysterious ways.
Yeah, like on the P days, like the rest days, I would play baseball with like the other missionaries, and then on the streets teaching, we would play bitilla, which is basically like a stick with bottle caps. And we would approach kids playing it, and we'd play them to teach them lessons, and you know what I mean. And so I was immersed in the sport, and would see like the MLB's like camps that they have there. It's really cool.
Right.
So I was like, I'm going to play baseball. And so I came back and I started playing at Utah Valley University, and I was like, this is it. But then I met who became my wife, and everything else changed.
Well, because she didn't like baseball players?
No, it was more God. So I came home.
Wait, are you saying that he changed his mind?
He did.
He was like, you're going to be a baseball player. Wait a second. Here's Bailey.
You're going to get into skincare.
Okay.
Yeah. It was, I met her. We started to date at the same time. I was practicing with the team, and all of a sudden my priorities were just shifting. I very quickly fell in love, and very quickly we met and married in 7 months, very fast. And in that time period, baseball just took a back seat. It became less and less important to me, which was crazy because that was my whole life.
Yeah.
And so I remember the day I went into the head coach's office, and I sat down and I said, I'm done. I quit. And he's like, there's other married guys on the team. Like, this is very normal.
This is Utah County.
Yeah. And I was like, it's beyond that. It's more than baseball. Something in me was just like, baseball's just a game. You're going on to do bigger things.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think that's interesting that you followed your gut instinct at that point.
Yeah.
And I didn't have the same experience. In fact, I think still deep down inside, I think I should be playing football professionally.
You should. Heck yeah, let's get you out there.
Yeah. Yes. And at that point, were you pretty accomplished in baseball? Like, you're at Utah Valley.
Yeah.
Do you have a starting position? What's your specialty? Are you a good hitter, infield, outfield?
More of a hitter. Defense was okay. It wasn't great. At the time, I was practicing with the team to play first base and third base. But my whole thing was hitting. I grew up loving hitting. Didn't practice defense that much. But hitting was something I really excelled at. And, in high school was definitely a top athlete in the state when it came to the hitting side of things.
Yeah. Well, hitting is interesting in baseball because I know everybody knows this, but you don't succeed 2/3 of the time.
Yeah.
And you're still considered really successful.
Yeah.
As a hitter.
Which I love that about the sport. It teaches you failure and how to bounce back, be a goldfish.
That's what I was. Well, okay. Explain. I know what you're talking about, Ted Lasso and the goldfish, but explain being the goldfish.
Yeah. So goldfish have basically really short-term memories. They forget like instantly almost. And so in baseball, if you strike out the first at bat, you can't think about that strikeout going into your next at bat, or the next at bat's going to suck. So you have to forget about that strikeout. The next at bat's a new at bat. And, you know, if you get a hit, that's, you know, even if you go 1 for 3, that's a good day. Absolutely. So it's a game of failure.
Well, I'm interested in that. There's two things that I'm thinking about right now. One is kind of this gut feeling of my life is and passion have been baseball. Yeah. I'm taking this other path.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing. You went with this gut feeling.
Yeah.
And I'm curious about how that has manifested itself in the rest of your life.
Sure.
And then the lessons of baseball. Like, I think it's really hard. In fact, I don't know that you can teach all of the things that you learn on the competitive field, in the arena.
Totally.
Those lessons are invaluable, and you can't put that in a classroom.
Yep.
And so this concept of failure, learn from it, put it past you. I'm up to bat again.
Yeah.
And this time I'm going to succeed.
Yeah.
Failure, nope. It's gone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I totally know what you mean. Cause like for me, my parents actually did not make me work growing up. I never had to get a job. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. Baseball player.
Yeah. There it is. Exactly. Like it was really interesting. My parents never pushed that. My dad was just baseball. And then also just be a kid, enjoy your life with your friends. That was kind of his thing. He was working a lot and traveling a lot. So maybe if he was home more, he'd be seeing us sitting around and be like, get your butt and go get a job. But he never really pushed that on us. And that is something I'm going to be pushing on my kids, the importance of understanding the value of work and making a dollar and being an effective citizen in our world. You know, I mean, that was something I didn't appreciate, but I will say that baseball, the work ethic, the competitive nature of sports definitely bled into when I started getting into the workforce and starting to figure out my career. And like you said, pursuing entrepreneurship, I didn't even know what the word entrepreneur was growing up. Even post-mission, getting into college, I took a sales job because here I am, I quit baseball. And I'm like, okay, I need to like start making money if I'm going to marry this girl who came from like, a father who's done well. And so I'm like, got all this pressure and I'm like, okay, I got to be that guy, and these were pressures that I felt. And, getting a sales job, I learned, there's competitive nature to this. And it was fueling that. So even though, I didn't have to work or understand that, the sports aspect of being a competitor and then failing and bouncing back from failure and just overall work ethic is a great thing that sports taught me.
All of those lessons, hard work, effort, determination, having a game plan, strategy, sticking to it, learning from failure, all of that stuff. You can learn that in the workplace.
You totally can.
As well. But if you can translate it from the athletic field, it's as effective.
It totally is.
And certainly it has been for you. Okay. Yeah. So, and by the way, you knew Bailey, your future wife, your current wife, in high school as well?
Yeah. So when I was a senior, she was a sophomore. And then my business partner, Mitch Casey, who we'll talk about in the story, he was my same grade. I knew him from middle school, but we weren't friends. We were actually kind of frenemies because he says,
I love this story.
He says that I was with a girl in middle school that he really liked.
Middle school.
So it started then. Okay. And then in high school, he played basketball and football. I played baseball. So we ran in similar circles, but we just weren't friends. You know what I mean? And so we didn't come across each other much. And if you would have told me today, back then, that I would be in business and married, in business with Mitch Casey and married to Bailey Snow, I would have been like, what? You're crazy.
What are you talking about?
So it's just funny how life works out.
I thought you were going to tell me that maybe Mitch dated Bailey.
No, man. Luckily, that did not happen.
Because the rule.
Don't know if the business partnership would have worked.
You know the rule. Actually, you weren't really friends, but you know the rule. If you can't date your friend's former girl, that doesn't work.
It's off the table.
Okay.
So luckily that worked out.
Yeah, super, super lucky for Bailey too, because Mitch. Rough. We know the Caseys from Case Pack.
Yes.
So they've been in business in Utah for a long time.
Awesome.
And that's an interesting part of your story as well. We'll get to that. So now you have a new motivation. It's not you're gonna hit home runs in
pursue an MLB. Yep.
Who was your favorite team, by the way?
I grew up a Rockies fan, which was terrible. I mean, they were just so close. It was actually Troy Tulowitzki. He's going to listen to this podcast. Shout out. He he was like my guy when he came on in 2007. I can't remember when his rookie year was, but like he was shortstop and he was like my hero. So I loved him and I loved the Rockies. They just were terrible, so they're really hard to cheer for. So now I don't really have a team. I kind of like a couple teams.
Do you follow players more or
follow players more?
Yeah, I know it's become that with all the great free agency, everything else. Yeah. Interesting fact: the owner of the Colorado Rockies is a guy named Charlie Monfort, who graduated from the University of Utah.
Oh, wow. That is a fun fact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he grew up in that area, came to the University of Utah, family, got into the family business, and then bought the Rockies. So
wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Fun fact.
So now you have this new motivation. It's not baseball, but you feel like you want to be a person that Bailey wants to marry.
Yeah.
And what does that mean? What kind of person is that?
Totally. I mean, for me, it was I needed to step up financially and provide for us, right? I mean, I hadn't really ever experienced like a pressure like that, obviously. And I think when we got married, I had like $2,000 in my bank account, so I got us into an apartment in Midvale by Topgolf. It wasn't there. That was just land and a Winco.
Winco's still there.
Winco was there. And it was just this teeny little apartment. And I was actually really embarrassed. I mean, it was what I could afford. My dad, when I quit baseball and when I got married, he was like, you won't see a dime from me. Not in like a malicious way, but he's just like, if you're going to go be your own man, go be your own man. And so, and I respect that,
Sure.
And so I was like, okay. And then I was too prideful to ever ask my father-in-law for money or to like stay in his basement or anything like that. So I was like, I'm going to go make this happen. So I found us this teeny little apartment and I was embarrassed, but why I love her so much is she's always just like gone with the flow, like she just is like, this is our chapter of life and things will get better and we'll just work hard. And like, she's always been an amazing supporting cast for me.
Yeah.
And so it was fun, but it was definitely like the pressure of like, got to make something happen, especially where I didn't even know what I wanted to do in life. I knew sales because my dad had done sales. My sister-in-law is who got me my first job in sales. And like I had said, that I realized I was actually kind of good at it. It's a lot of relationships. There's that competitive nature to get sales and grow numbers and things like that. So I did like that. But what I found myself, every job I took before starting my own companies was I was like, I could do this company better. Again, going back to the baseball guy in me. I just felt like I could take the business model and do it better as I learned more about it. And so what I was realizing was I was more entrepreneurial than I even knew. And I started to become obsessed with product inventions. I loved this idea of creating a solution that made people's lives better or easier. And I loved like how products functioned, coming up with solutions that was like all of a sudden became really fascinating to me. And so I had this product invention and I started to pursue it. And I learned it takes a lot of money to develop those types of products. There's tooling, design costs, development costs, all kind. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I don't have that. And so then I started to learn about like licensing and, getting royalties for licensing your ideas. And I was like, okay, this is really interesting. And ultimately what happened was I came across this design firm locally here, awesome group. And I was like, hey, I'm going to create my own design firm. And I'm going to get clients. You guys will perform the services, charge me, and I'll turn around and charge my clients. So I was essentially a broker.
You're a broker.
A broker.
Yeah.
I didn't know what that term was at the time.
You thought you just made it up.
I thought I like made up this like brilliant.
look at this. And people are like, yeah, you're a broker.
Yeah, exactly. So it was kind of my first dipping my toes into my own business, what it meant to go get your own clients, take care of them, manage expectations,
build a product,
price it out. Yep.
The client had the product in mind.
Yep.
You said that you could produce it. You would sell it to them.
Correct.
Essentially. Okay.
Correct.
At this point, are you married?
Married. Yeah.
So now you've gotten married.
Yeah.
And are you working somewhere as well?
Yeah. So this was going into working at the logistics company.
Gotcha.
So I was doing that full time.
working at the logistics company, and now you're starting to broker product.
Yeah, doing some side hustles.
It kind of sounds like you're a drug dealer.
Yeah, it's exactly what it was. You caught me.
No wonder you've been so successful.
Yeah.
And is what is Bailey doing at this point? Is she in school? Is she?
Yeah, great question. So she's decided she didn't want to go to college. She just felt like that was going to be a waste of time, but she wanted to pursue something. And growing up, she had troubles with her skin. She would go meet with dermatologists and things like that. And so she's always kind of had this desire for skin care and skin wellness. And so when it was like time for her to like, are you taking a career path? What's your plan? She started to look into becoming a master esthetician. And so an esthetician,
thank you. For some of us who, okay.
So it's a step down. It's not a dermatologist, right? Like they're actually a medical professional. An esthetician is what I would call a skin professional. They learn an array of services from facials, like skin treatments, but even doing like waxing and eyebrow shaping and, eyelash extensions.
Yeah. I noticed that your eyebrows are
they're on point.
Fantastic. Yeah, no doubt. Absolutely.
So she was like, I think I'm going to pursue this. And I was like, I think that's awesome. So she went to NEMA, which is in South Jordan. And she did, I think it was like an 8-month full time. It was literally like 8 to 5 type of course. She did extra hours that earned her the master esthetician. So you can be an esthetician. You can take more hours that earns you the master esthetician.
Gotcha.
And then she worked at, coming out of that practice or that schooling, she took a job at like some spas and things, but just didn't love it. She started to realize she as well was very entrepreneurial. So she started her own practice. And she started to take clients doing facials, eyebrows, all that stuff. Gotcha. And she started to grow the practice actually to a decent amount of clientele. And it was so funny. She's going to hate that I share the story, but I love sharing the story. She's not a money-driven individual. She is like a passion person, and she loves to take care of people. And she likes to make people feel better about themselves. That's her number one quality, both internally and externally. She likes to make people feel good about themselves. And so one day I went into her salon and I was opening up drawers and I opened up the drawers and there are like wads of cash, like wads of them. And I was like, there is so much money in here. What are you like? Why didn't you bring, like, we should put this in the bank? And she's like, I don't know. I just would put it in there and close it. And I didn't really think about it. I was like, we need this money, So it just kind of speaks to her and how she is as a person. She's just an incredible person.
That's amazing.
And she's not driven by money, which is amazing, but it's just a funny little story.
So I can see this story coming together. It's really fascinating. Did she have any thought at that point? Because I'm sure that she's using product for her clients. Did she have any thought at that point? Like, maybe this is something that I could do. Yeah. Now you're kind of on the side building products for other people. Yeah. Were you guys ever talking about that?
Always talking about it. So she would initiate the conversations. I mean, she was using like the clinical based skincare products, right? The tried and true, proven, used by professionals only. But a lot of them wouldn't work for people that had acne or looking for anti-aging solutions. They weren't working. And she's like, these should be working. And then like they would come in and say drugstore, like products they got from Walgreens were working. And you're like, okay, that's really weird.
Yeah.
And post working at the logistics company, which I'll tell how I got there, but working at the manufacturing company was awesome for me to learn the ins and outs of the industry. Because then her and we joke about our pillow talk was talking about ingredients. And we were reading like product labels going, okay, this product's terrible. This is old. This one's super irritating, like da-da-da-da-da. And we'd go down the list. And yeah, I think at the time it was more just like picking apart products and which ones were good and which ones not. But I think what was happening is we started to realize we were going to create our own solution.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Okay, so that leads us up to you're at the logistics company, you're doing a side hustle. Where does this relationship with Mitch come into play? Is that the next kind of step?
Yeah. So working in the logistics company was amazing because it was the first time I sunk my teeth into e-commerce. Didn't really embrace that much coming into that job. It was so cool to talk to other brands and what they were doing. I always wanted to be on the other side of the phone. You know what I mean? I wanted to be the brand owner, doing a cool brand. That was always my aspiration. I just didn't have the cash to make that happen.
Right.
But it was cool to learn, the ins and outs of the logistics side, like, that's really valuable information that a lot of brand owners have no idea how to approach that. Right. And
that's
so that
exactly
was
right.
super cool to understand. And then I get a LinkedIn message from Mitch Casey. I'm like, Mitch Casey from high school. And he had done a Kickstarter. You're familiar?
Yes.
And so
I know I look like I'm old, and I am. But I do. Thank you for clarifying.
Try to clarify.
I haven't felt that old in a while. I think I should be offended, but I'm not. We're good.
Back to that baseball player mentality. So he had done a Kickstarter. He was doing like these wallets for this lifestyle brand he was trying to get going. And he was like, hey, I've done some orders. I heard you can give me cheaper shipping rates, fulfillment rates. I was like, yeah, man, I can help you out. So I had him come to the facility and I just fulfilled his orders with him. So he didn't have any like pick and pack costs. Nice. And then he paid the rates that I could get him essentially. But as we were doing that, we were just kind of catching up. Like, what are you up to? What are you up to? What are you doing? And he said, hey, my dad owns this packaging company and this contract manufacturer. He's looking for younger sales guys. He has old sales guys. Sorry for those guys if they listen to this.
Those older sales guys.
They're looking for some young bucks. And essentially he was going to go be a sales guy, even though for his dad.
Okay.
Even though he wanted his own thing to take off, but it wasn't. So he needed a day job, more steady income, insurance. He just had his first child. And I was like, you know what? Like, if he can pay me more as a sales guy, that's enticing. But I also liked this prospect of going and learning about product development because I didn't know anything about packaging, formulas, but it was closer to my passion than say shipping logistics was. It was creating products for brands. And I was like, wow, that could get me another step closer to like doing my own thing one day. So I took the job and we started working at CasePack. And there was two companies, CasePack and Wasatch Product Development. CasePack was the packaging arm. And so that's when I learned everything, the ins and outs of bottles and tubes and jars, and what people don't appreciate when they go to grocery stores or whatever. When you see all those shampoos and skincare bottles on the shelves, they don't appreciate what goes behind the scenes to get that product to that shelf. It's a lot of work. There's a lot of intricacies, a lot of suppliers, a lot of things to take into account when you're doing your artwork and making sure you're FDA compliant, all this stuff, right? And so learning that was super fascinating to me. And then learning the contract manufacturing side, getting close to their chemists, I learned that I nerd out about chemistry, like not Breaking Bad style, but like, but when I went to high school, I took chemistry and I think I got like an F or a D probably. But the skincare side, like I really appreciated this formulation to create solutions, taking care of the skin. This is how you treat acne. This is how you treat aging signs. That became really fascinating to me. And I, one of the co-founders of Wasatch Product Development, he was their chemist, probably a world-renowned chemist, I would say. He is an awesome chemist in the industry, has made products for massive brands. He kind of made the time for me to go into his office on a weekly basis and just kind of pick his brain. Really? And just ask him questions about skincare and formulation and building product and what's old ingredients, new ingredients, what's out there that's new, where's trends heading. And so that was really cool educational time for me to eventually lead us to starting what we started.
Okay. I have two things from that story that you were telling us. One, the logistics experience, I think, is invaluable. Because moving product around and knowing how to move a product around and get it there under the right time frame and for the right cost. Is that something you've been able to rely on as you've built your career? Yeah, it has actually. So Dime does all of its orders in-house. And so we built an infrastructure, brought in a software, and like we've improved it over time, but the way that we first built it out was stuff that I had learned at my job. And so, yes. And then knowing the carriers to work with and to not work with, and then all the intricacies. Right. Super helpful. Yes. We hear that story fairly regularly, is the logistics side of it, the transportation side of it is complex and people don't always get it right. And sometimes it's just like they treat it as a necessary evil. And rather than really managing it appropriately. So that experience has been super helpful for you. When you decided to move from the logistics industry to this product development and packaging side, you said that, well, if they could pay me a little more money, was that the motivation, or did you have something in the back of your head like, I think I can build something based on this next experience? What's going on?
No, as I think back at it, for sure, because I had been having those conversations with Bailey. And so I'm like, wow, this kind of like the stars are aligning. I'm going to be able to get closer to the industry that we were talking about, reading ingredient labels. You know what I mean? I'm going to be able to get closer and like learn about it. How is it made? And so they're definitely that, and like the product side, just learning about how those types of products get developed was very intriguing for me. I mean, ultimately, again, that pressure to be a better provider, that was always a motivating factor for me. Like, I wanted to provide a great life for my family. But the opportunity to go and learn that space that my wife was already dabbling in and become a professional in, it was pretty cool to be like, okay, I'm going to go learn this side of it.
I think that is really interesting. Your wife's in it. She's had maybe this lifelong concern about skincare for her own, and then maybe trying to help others. And then you discover that you have this kind of funny passion about building product that would be in the skincare world. So these kind of worlds are converging. And I said that as well. It feels like a stars aligning kind of story, but you've also made some decisions to get there, and maybe following your gut. There wasn't, well, you tell me, was it more like just gut feel, this is the right path for me? Or was there more of a strategic, I'm going to be in the skincare world and this is my path?
I think it was gut feel. It was opportunity presented itself, seize on the opportunity. I think that's something I've learned in life is everyone has opportunity around them. It's those who go and seize it. They take action and seize it, right? And like, even though you think an opportunity takes you what you hope is a great outcome, it might not be, but it's going to lead you to the next opportunity. And that's what I've learned in my life is like, I thought I would take this opportunity, it would lead me to this great thing. It didn't, but then it opened up this new opportunity and I explored that. And okay, this is now, it's never how you picture it yourself, but the outcomes seem to get greater the more you can follow that gut feeling.
So let's take just a little pause here. I want to, before we get to your next event, which is Dime. But this concept of following your gut and trusting that, and I mean, I have to imagine that financially you're not exactly where you want to be at that time.
Yeah, totally.
And you're probably taking some risks making these decisions. How difficult is that? You had a stable job. Your gut's telling you to maybe try something else. How difficult was it to make that leap?
It was actually really difficult, especially when you develop relationships at companies, and you're like, okay, should I do this? Am I going to burn bridges? But at the end of the day, I wasn't happy with where I was. And I knew I was going to be on to greater things. And that was just this, I don't know, false sense of confidence or something. Like, I just had this hope that I was going to be successful. But I didn't know how to define success, right? At the time, I just knew that where I was right now wasn't it. So I'm going to try to keep moving and keep throwing darts at the dartboard to see which ones start sticking and then pursue those further, right? And so that was basically part of the reason why I went to the packaging company, was because it was this new opportunity that presented itself. I'm going to throw this dart. We'll see if it sticks. And if it sticks, where does it take me to throw my next dart?
So now you and Mitch are working together every day, and you guys are trying to create some opportunities outside of your day job.
True. Yeah. So we were working together. We both had our own side hustles, right?
Okay. So your side hustle was
the product design stuff.
Okay. You're still doing that.
Did that. And I licensed one of my inventions to someone, which was a pretty cool thing.
Very cool.
And then he was doing his lifestyle brand. So we were doing these things on the side, both not very successful though. Hence why we had our sales jobs. But I think what we realized was, hey, we're both very entrepreneurial. We don't want to go about our ventures solo. We saw the value in having a business partner. I don't know if that came from our experiences as missionaries or what it may be, but like having someone by your side through failures and building something is a lot more I don't know, it feels better, or the success that comes from it is just so much more. I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, but doing it solo is just was not an attractive thought for us.
Being with a complementary partner it's not just one turning into two.
Yeah.
Two is a multiplier.
Yep.
In lots of different ways.
Yeah.
And I think that's a recurring story that we hear is, I couldn't have done this alone. I aligned with the right partner and we took off.
Yeah. Just
the same way. And maybe you have experience with this as well. Just the same as being with the wrong partner.
Totally.
Just brings you down and everything comes crashing down.
Yes.
Have you had that experience?
I have not. He has. And so he was very much like, hey, I'm a little worried about this. I've had X, Y, and Z experiences. And I was like, well, let's just try a few things together and see how things go. Right. And I think that was so good for him and I. I mean, we started, I think it was 16 LLCs before starting Dime.
16.
So we were.
Can you talk about some of those?
Yeah. The very first one we did was a drop ship baby clothing company that we called Small Fry Supply. And drop shipping at the time, this was 2017. It was pretty hot. It was basically ship products from China directly to doorsteps. And so that was kind of like, let's sink our teeth into e-commerce together. We built this website. Again, my wife was actually the face of it because she's very like, she picked all the clothes, obviously. And then we would do more like the marketing things, but it was really very, very small. It was more just like a trial period. We did like 5,000 in sales in like 8 months. So you can see very tiny, but we sold it to a mom in New York for $5,000. So we were like, so him and I were like, hey, first acquisition.
That's impressive.
Is
that still around? Is it still?
I think it is actually. I don't know if it's someone's operating it.
Yeah.
But,
awesome.
So then we started a few more of those and couldn't get traction to any of them. So we were like, okay, maybe that's not the move. And so at this time, 2017 into 2018, the influencers of social media, like particularly Instagram, was really starting to boom. So we had this thought like, we will reach out to influencers and partner with them in creating their own brand. And we'll do all what we called for them, we would call it the unsexy stuff. So the sourcing of the product, the customer service, all the supply chain, managing the website. And they could do the fun stuff, the branding, face of the product,
Instagram,
and marketing it. Yeah.
And this is pretty early in the influencer world.
Fairly early. Yeah. I mean, starting to boom, but definitely like early on. And it was funny. We made so many mistakes that we learned from. Like we were working with this one influencer who was interested, which was hilarious because we were just cold emailing, like sliding into DMs, like, "Hey, we can source your product. Let's start your own brand." And they all were thinking about starting their own brand. That was just a thing. And so they're like, "Oh, someone's reaching out to me. I'll pursue this." And so we were like, the one I remember is hilarious. It was this girl she wanted to do athleisure leggings, and so we knew clothing because Mitch and I had done and knew how to source clothing. And we literally just got on Alibaba and found factories. And it was so funny. We sourced these leggings that she wanted and we didn't even look at them to like see if they were good quality. We just sent it to her. She sends a picture back. She has both legs and one pant leg looking like a mermaid. She goes, "Did you guys even listen to the sizings and things that I told you?" And we just like didn't pay attention to those details at all. So just like learning all these lessons through the failures of like, okay, pay attention to details, like setting better expectations of clients.
Check out the product.
Yeah, check the product out. Very simple things. And so we tried to do a few of those and they all they all didn't go anywhere. But they were all just stepping stones of learning and failing to lead us to eventually starting Dime.
And at this point, you're probably dumping some money into this stuff. And
yeah, I mean, we like the sourcing stuff didn't cost like a ton of money because it was just getting samples back and forth. We didn't ever get to the point of like placing an order. But when it did come to Dime and like, okay, so for Dime, we had dabbled in all these industries that were not skincare. We were doing everything outside of it, basically. Than our day jobs. Yeah. And then it was like, wait, we have this incredible resource of knowledge with this manufacturing space and the relationships we have at the actual manufacturer. We know how to source packaging. We know how to do this very cash sensitive, where if you went to like, if Frank wanted to create Frank's facial serum,
which I do, by the way,
TM.
we'll talk later.
Yeah. You know, if you go to a contract manufacturer, you're probably going to be like 5,000 to 10,000 minimum order quantity with any factories around here. And then you're going to be anywhere from like $3 to $5. So it's like a decent amount of cash to just jump into it. And that's just one SKU, one product.
Gotcha.
But we, because of just how we knew how to do it, we knew we could create a lot of product, like a whole product line, and do it with like 100 SKUs per line, because we knew the right factories that would entertain that. And then we knew we could get bulk. Bulk is basically the ingredients all mixed together in a bucket. We could get that from the chemists, you know, like we had these resources that were really helpful. And so we were like, okay, we should create this solution in this space that we know. And we have Bailey, who is a master esthetician. It was like this like obvious light bulb that goes off.
Epiphany.
What were you guys doing for those other 16 LLCs? This should have been the first one. Obvious answer, but we didn't realize that till later.
Well, it's probably because you had to go through all that other stuff.
Yeah.
To get to where you are today. You have to go through this is another recurring theme on this show, by the way.
Yep.
It seems like everybody has this struggle-ish moment getting up to where they finally succeed.
It takes effort. I mean, that's probably my biggest thing. I actually heard this quote by a friend of mine, Todd Peterson, and I would hope he considers us friends. We went golfing together, and we served our mission in the same mission. He just served like 20-something years before me, but
same mission, 20 years apart.
I think together. Golfing bonds.
I think you're pretty tight.
Yeah. So he said that his quote was, "Life responds to effort." And man, that has just resonated with me. Like, it's such a fact. And it just means that like, you got to put in the work, you got to put in the effort, and life will yield what you're wanting out of it, but it's going to require a certain level of effort and work.
Yeah.
And that was us. We were putting in the work that ultimately led us to being more prepared, not totally prepared, but more prepared and starting Dime right off.
Gotcha. Okay. So you have this epiphany.
Yeah.
You've had all of this experience now with all of these other products, and you say, okay, here it is. We're going to create this skincare line. And is that with you and with Mitch, or is that with you and Bailey and Mitch? How does that all work out? Yeah.
So we essentially started to do our research, and it was funny because it was conversations that Bailey and I had leading up, and then Mitch and I talking, just being in the industry. And everyone was missing the boat on clean and what that actually meant. Clean ingredients. So that was a very early on term. It's now widely used. Everyone uses it in the industry. But clean was basically using non-harmful ingredients, non-irritating ingredients that are actually good for your body, not just your skin, and then also the environment. No one was really touching on that. And also transparency. No one was like, here's all the ingredients in our products and here's why we use them. No one was doing that. Most companies were like, they knew the 3 ingredients they should market to: niacinamide, hyaluronic acid, and then they would just go and create this story.
Yeah.
But no one knew what else was in their products. And we knew that because we were making products for people, but they had no idea. They'd say, okay, like put this ingredient in there, or what other 2 should I know about to market and tell a good story? And we're like, that is so unauthentic. You know what I mean? And so for us, it was like, okay, we're going to create this solution that is good for you and the environment, clean. And we're going to be really transparent about it. We're going to tell you, here's all the ingredients in our formulas and here's why we're using them and their purpose. And we're not all natural. So we do use natural ingredients, but we have synthetic, but it's synthetic that are healthy. They're good for you. They're safe. They're non-irritating. But then we're going to tell you why it's in there and why it's good for you and what it's functioning. And just no one was really doing that. So that was our first kind of pillar.
Yes. Well, and all of that is amazing, but the product also has to work. So whatever you're telling people, and that's the other part of the story. I think that we can talk about it now, or we can get to that. But I think you've had a lot of feedback that the product works.
The product works, which is great. But at the time, you know, we basically were going off Bailey. We would have our chemists make the formulas, and then Bailey would test them. And be like, and then maybe give them to her mom and, you know, and be like, okay, this feels really nice, but I want to add this to it. Or, oh, this one actually made me break out. And so why did it break out? And we would talk about that. And then we would change the formula. And then we finally got the formulas just right. And then that's when we were like, okay, like we're ready to rock, but we needed a good brand behind it.
So I love this part of the story. Let me just ask you really quickly on the line that you're coming out with. Did Bailey kind of direct that?
She totally did. Yeah.
These are the products that I think are going to be, or did you also do some market research and determine that?
I mean, it was a little bit of both, but Bailey definitely was the one that captained what we should come out with, which was primarily skincare products, basically, cleanser, toner, serums, which are treatments, and then moisturizers. So that was like, Dime is a skincare company, but we have other products that don't necessarily fall under skincare. So we call it skin wellness, because anything that influences your skin for better or for worse, that should be considered skin wellness.
Sure. So
we did launch with beauty products. We had an eyelash lengthening serum, and then we had a mascara technically too. And so that was kind of like our starting lineup. We have way more products than that now. Which we can talk about. One of the lines, which is a perfume line that we launched in 2021 that went crazy.
Really?
But yeah, so Bailey kind of curated that initial, here's what we should launch with. So we worked with our chemist, formulated them, got them where we should. The branding wise, like everyone was white in skincare or pastel colors.
Packaging,
like, packaging. Sorry,
yeah, super like clean.
Sound a little racial. Sorry. The packaging was white, and or pastel colors, like speaking to the female consumer.
Yeah. And
we said, you know what, like no one's doing black, and everyone that we would talk to was like, well, black targets men, like the black packaging would target men, and we're like, no, if you do it right, I think it would come off really elegant, and so that's what we did.
Good word. I agree with that.
We went matte black with the gold dime. That's kind of like the signature. And sure enough, like we didn't do really many focus groups. We asked a few people, but sometimes you can't let too many people's opinions.
A lot of opinions will
deter what you're trying to do. I think, when you have that gut feeling or you feel like you're onto something, you kind of have like that tingling in your fingers. Like you kind of have to like put the blinders on sometimes and just go for it. And let the experience of failing or succeeding tell you your answer. Because sometimes we just listen to too many people going, you know how many people told us, why are you guys getting into skincare?
Yeah.
It's like 150 plus year old industry. There's massive people in it. Like
you can't do that.
You can't succeed. Like go do something in tech or clothing. And we're like, no, like we have something here. And so we kind of put on the blinders and then ran.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And the way you came up with a name
so
is also a great story.
Yeah, the name it was interesting. I mean, we learned the world of trademark, right? And so a lot of words we liked were taken. And so we were kind of like sifting through, what names would fit. And we wanted something very brandable and very recognizable, like not misspell it. So people were like, how do you say that? And so Urban Dictionary, funny enough, is, people are familiar with it. It's not all bad things. It's a good, like, creative outlet. Yes. And I remember typing in beautiful, and it just gave you like synonyms. And dime was one of those synonyms. And I was like,
perfect in Urban
dime.
Dictionary. Yeah.
Okay, like 10 out of 10.
Right.
And so we kind of were going off this feeling like you use our products, you look 10 out of 10, but it's healthy ingredients, so you feel 10 out of 10. And then it actually took a step further that I haven't shared in a podcast before. It actually is an acronym that stands for Designed with Intention by a Master Esthetician.
Whoa.
So it like clicked.
All of that.
It's just like, like you want your brand and you want the name to mean something. Yeah. It needs to have meaning. Like
absolutely.
What do you do? And a lot of people are like, why dime? Why'd you call it that? And so having this meaning in the story and this cause around it, because everything we do is intentional.
Yeah.
And we're just 3 skincare professionals, because Mitch and I are skincare professionals. We're from contract manufacturing.
Yeah.
Bailey's obviously the face of it for obvious reasons. She's a skincare professional. So everything we do is with the intent to take care of people and their lives, not only their skin, but just making them feel better too.
Yeah, that's awesome. This is a good jumping off point, actually, when you're talking about Dime and coming up with that name, because this is my favorite part of the podcast.
Okay.
This is 3 random questions.
Okay, perfect.
But I think I might have 4 for you.
Okay. I feel special.
This is a perfect one based on how you named the company. Should the new NHL hockey team in Utah be called the Yeti, the Outlaws, the Mammoths, or the Dimes?
Oh. Well, depending on the check size, we would take the Dimes. Just kidding. Just kidding. Well, depending on your facial expressions, I actually think the Yeti is super fire.
Darn,
Is that an age thing?
Yes,
Frank?
it's
okay.
definitely an age thing, but it's because I don't think a Yeti at all represents Utah, but I'm thinking of the Yeti
I haven't seen him here,
like
but
the
it's
monster. You're thinking of the Yeti like the cup. That's your generation.
No, I just think the Yeti and like the logo mock-ups I've seen are actually pretty fire.
Really?
Yeah. Outlaws is like, that's so typical. That was like all the comp names growing up. The baseball teams were called like Outlaws.
Yeah, but the state of Utah has such a rich history of outlaws.
Okay.
In the state, especially in southern Utah.
Okay.
Robbers Roost.
Wow.
I mean, do you know all this
No, I do
history?
not.
So okay, so
yeah, I can see
you need
where
to
you
dig into
appreciate it.
that.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the mammoths, like who doesn't love a mammoth? And they found, mammoth bones in Utah.
You are a rich Utah historian.
Yeah, very.
Wow. Okay.
Very. And then of course,
I guess coming from a younger
10 out of 10.
generation, I think the Yetis is a little more fire, but
okay, let's do this.
Yikes.
Whoever wins, you're gonna say Yeti is the name. I'm gonna say anything else.
Wow, I don't like my odds.
The bet is Yeti or anything else, and then we'll do lunch. Whoever, are we good?
Yeah.
Are you in?
Sounds like I'll be paying.
You might be. But
there's like 8 names.
But Yeti is right now cone number 1.
Oh, is it really?
In the voting.
See,
but you know what number 2 is? Outlaws.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Tight race.
We'll see. Anyway, they have a real opportunity here.
Yeah.
To do the right thing.
I think it's cool.
Oh, very cool.
Love hockey.
I reserved tickets.
Wow.
Yeah, I love hockey too.
That's super cool.
Yeah. Okay. Random question number 2. Who's the better boss? You or Bailey?
Ooh. I would probably say Bailey.
Because
I think Bailey, she has the biggest heart.
Mm-hmm.
We have a 99% female workforce. So we have 75 employees now, and most of those are females.
Yes.
So she relates to them more. But I think she's just overall, like, she just kind of has knowledge beyond her years. She's more mature than her age represents.
Mm-hmm. Well, she's had to deal with you for a long time.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, she is the better boss, both at Dime and in the home. So
would you, if we weren't on the podcast right now, would you also, if we were just talking in the hall and I asked you that question, would you say the same thing? Or would you be like,
I think I would.
Listen, I kill it as the boss.
No,
I think really good boss.
Everyone
people like me.
I don't know one person that doesn't like Bailey. She just is one of those special souls that everyone just loves her when they come across her.
You hit it out of the park to use a baseball thing.
It's the baseball thing.
Could be. That
the
could
one
be.
benefit.
Yeah. Okay. Random question number 3. Is it more likely that you lose a package that you send to somebody, or for Utah or BYU to win a college football national championship?
That's a good one. Probably lose a package.
Hey, we're in the shipping industry.
Yeah, you know.
And no, we don't lose packages. All of our competitors lose packages regularly.
It's true. Very true.
You know how costly that is. You were in the logistics business.
It is.
Speaking of the logistics business.
That's a good question.
Would you rather ship your pants or ship your bed?
I would rather ship my pants.
And
with
why?
A hard P there.
Why?
Ship.
Why?
Much cheaper to ship those.
Yeah. See, that's your logistics background. Shipping a bed.
Yeah. Nightmare.
Very costly.
Yes.
It's a mess.
Yes.
As we say, okay, that's it. 4 random questions.
That's good. I like those.
You did fantastic.
Oh, that's good.
You earned an extra question.
Okay.
Like, not many people do that.
I was gonna say I feel special.
You should. You should. I asked a really funny one, I thought, to Jeremy Andrus. You know Jeremy at Traeger.
Mm-hmm.
And it was about, because Jeremy's a huge BYU fan.
Okay.
And I'm a Utah guy. But I love Kalani Sitake.
Okay.
But I love Kyle Whittingham. And so I asked who would win in a cage fight between Kalani and Kyle Whittingham. And Jeremy was he didn't answer it.
Really?
No.
Couldn't take a side.
He just said how much he loved both of them, essentially.
They both seem like great guys.
Very.
I mean,
Salt
you know
of
them
the
personally.
earth. Yeah,
I don't, but they seem like great guys.
Yes. Yeah. Fantastic guys.
Like they would both just end up in tears trying to fight each other.
You think?
Yeah.
I don't know. They're so competitive.
Who are you picking?
Coach.
Can you say?
Yeah, Coach Whittingham.
Okay.
There's no doubt.
Would you say that to Sataki's face?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And Kalani is the best person in the world.
Seems like it. Seems like a great guy.
I think he would probably say, well, I'd give him a good fight, but maybe, he would
Sure.
he would handle it really well. He's the best. Anyway, let's get back to Dime.
Yeah.
And I know we're getting tight here on time, and I really appreciate all of your time here today. It's a fascinating story.
Thank you.
So I guess it goes like this. You came up with a product line, you had a few influencers, boom, your success overnight.
No. That's what everyone thinks and feels.
It took 7 years to become an overnight success?
Yeah, right. That classic. So yeah, we launched it in 2018. We did an Indiegogo, which was the competitor to Kickstarter. I don't even remember why. I think we felt like Kickstarter was too saturated or something. We filmed our own video. And we tried to make it quality. We wrote the whole script. We thought it was funny and inspirational at the same time. It was Bailey and I telling the story. And we tried to raise, I think it was $100,000 is what we wanted to raise. And we raised $3,000. And it was probably mostly from family and friends. And we were like, okay, that was a miss. But we didn't give up there. That was okay, whatever, we'll just launch it normally. What we were doing at the time was this more Costco model of you had to be a member to buy the products.
Yeah.
You could buy the products at a steep discount if you paid your membership fee.
Yeah.
This was kind of
Amazon
a popular
Prime, free shipping sort of thing.
Kind of that thing. There was another brand doing this for more commodity type products. We wanted to do it in high-end skincare. So it was a weller known model, and no one was getting it. It was super hard. People were like, why can't I just buy the products? Why do I have to be a member? We were trying to push it. It was probably poor marketing efforts on our end trying to push it. And we did that for about a year, the whole 2019. We did 50,000 in sales the whole year. And it was just so brutal.
Yeah.
We put in, Mitch and I put in $25,000 each personally. And that was my entire savings. We did 10 each first or 15 each first. And then we were like, oh man, inventory and marketing, it's all eating up our cash. We got to put in another 15. And Bailey was just like, hey, this is what we need to do. I believe in you and us. And so I was like, all right. So we would do it. And my savings was basically gone. And I remember just painful things. We paid this one girl to post. Perception of followers is such an interesting psychology to me now. She had a lot of followers. I think she was 1 or 2 million. And her fee was $7,000, which I kind of laugh at that now. But that was a lot of money.
Sure.
And paying her, she was young. She was probably 19, 20. And we thought that was our demographic, was the younger college kids. And so we paid her that $7,000, 0 in sales.
Whoa.
Oh, I was so gut wrenched. I was like, are you kidding me?
So did you determine that from that experience, did you determine that your market was different than you thought? Did you put it with the wrong influencer? What was your lesson coming out of that?
Not from that experience, but that was a part of what we were realizing was the demographic we were going for was not it. That was not who we spoke to. And the influencers that we were using were not the influencers that demographic was responding to, right?
That's fascinating.
And so we said, okay, middle-aged women, they have more disposable income. The following, influencers that had great followings, had a lot of these 30 to 50-year-old type women, right? That was a very common thing. And what happened was going into 2020, we said, we're going to get rid of this membership model. We're just going to go straight normal D2C, sell our products, come to our website, buy the products. And then we're going to target the kind of a more middle-aged female consumer. And so we started to reach out and work with influencers that fit that demographic.
Yeah.
And we came across this agency out of New York that had this good roster, and they said, hey, try a couple of these girls out and see what it does. And they actually yielded some returns, and we were like, oh, that was pretty cool. But they said, hey, if you guys really want to do this, you got to do it right, and you got to commit to like 50 grand worth of influencer spend. And we had only 30 grand in our bank. And so
combined,
like in our business bank.
Got you. Okay.
And so, yeah, like personally too.
Yeah.
And they basically said, you got to commit to 50. The way that it would work is you'd commit before the month, and at the end of the month, you would pay everybody. So basically, if it flopped, we would be out 50 grand, which we would have to figure out how to get that other 20.
Yeah.
But we were so confident in what we created, but then also desperate. I mean, we were like, we will try anything to get our brand out there, because we know it's great. We just need to get someone that can get some eyeballs on it, right? So we committed to it, and luckily it returned.
Oh, man.
And we, after that we said, hey, let's pour gas on this. And so they opened up more and more influencers. And so for 2020, COVID hit, and that was actually a big boost for us. I know a lot of businesses had a hard time during that time, but that was really helpful for us.
Well, interestingly enough, in the shipping and logistics business, that also was a good time, because people staying home,
shopping,
purchasing stuff online, a lot of shit
for us.
Apps. It was a very, very interesting time.
Yep.
Okay, so at this point, do you feel like, are you completely with Dime now, or are you still?
So yeah, towards 2020, we were still side hustling this, and the day job, we were still doing those. We were filling product during lunch and after hours. Like I remember literally 2 a.m.
For Dime.
2 a.m. Mitch and I are filling our own products, because that was the time we could get. It was outside of working hours. And so I remember we would just be talking to each other. If we could just sell, 250 of these serums, like we could then get to the next level of whatever we wanted to do. And we just had all these aspirations we would talk through as we sat there at 2 a.m. filling and packaging products.
That's so great. The good times.
Yeah. And so the momentum started to really build in 2020. And it got to the point where it was kind of like, hey, jump or, stop doing this. For as far as like our day job, like we couldn't keep doing the side hustle. It was getting too big.
Yeah.
It needed to be the full-time thing. So we made the leap. We went and got our first office space. It was a flex space in Draper by the aquarium, the tan buildings. Steve Price, his landlord there. And it was actually an old mortuary. So it was so funny. We took a tour of it. The mortuary company had 2 bays. We were exploring the viewing bay, and they said, hey, do you want to go see this other bay? It's also going to be available because they're moving out. And we're like, sure.
Yeah.
And we go back there, and there's a prepping room that they have like all cleaned off. And the person at Price just opens up the door, and right there are 2 bodies being prepared.
You're kidding.
And we're just supposed to sit here like,
that was part of
like
your
we've
tour?
seen this before.
Yeah.
We were like, okay, we'll take the other bay. Yeah, we won't do this bay.
You weren't like, it's like that person could use a little skincare.
Yeah. So it was like 4,500 square feet, the bay we took. And that was scary, because that meant like monthly rent, and everything that comes with that.
There's a lot of obligation.
Yeah. But within, 2-3 months, we filled that bay up to the brim with pallets, with bodies to fill in our orders. Like it was just like Black Friday 2020 was insane for our business. And then we just have been riding that momentum ever since, just growing year over year. We're just so grateful to be in this position. But I think what it just speaks to is that people are appreciating what's going in their products. I mean, you can see it across all industries, like food, everything that we consume in our lives. People are wanting to know more about them.
Yeah.
And are holding them at a higher standard.
Yeah. And we should.
And we should, right? And so that was always our MO going into this. And we're so grateful that now the culture is catching up and being more like that.
Yeah.
And it's challenging the big corporations to be like, hey, you guys got to get your stuff together. Like, you guys got to know what's in your products.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
It should be that way. There's so many things I have to ask you about. Hopefully I don't forget as we're going along this, but I think this theme about hard work is evident throughout this. I mean, you're working a full-time job, you're doing your side hustle, trying to get it going, and you have this belief in your product.
Yeah.
You struck out a couple times, but
number of times
you stepped back up to the plate, ready to hit. Like you just learn your lesson, let it go, and you're right back in the batter's box, ready to hit.
Yeah, Mitch and I talk about that all the time. Like one of the keys to our success has been relentlessness, not giving up. Like so many people get punched in the face, and you have two decisions to either back up or get in.
Yes.
And we had just been punched in the face so many times, still getting in, that we're like, what's another punch? You know what I mean? And so for us, it was just, we're going to keep getting punched until we figure out how to punch back harder.
Yeah.
And that was really what it is. It's just relentlessness and effort.
Well, nobody wants to get punched in the face.
No, maybe it's a bad analogy.
That's exactly.
That's what it felt like, at least during.
It's a great analogy. Nobody wants to get punched in the face.
Yeah.
It's how you respond to being punched in the face.
Yep.
You know,
a lot of people, they back out too soon. I know that maybe sounds cliche, but we call them entrepreneurs. A lot of people want to start their own thing. They want to have their own thing. And in today's world, you can have 5-10 side hustles if you want with technology and things like that. It's when we experience those failures or those hiccups or those, I just lost a lot of money, that's scary to me. It's at those moments people mostly give up and they're like, this isn't for me. And it's those who push forward and get through that. And really, like, as like a business owner, like businesses take you to the breaking point physically, mentally. And it's those who just get past that point that really do then finally start seeing those successes.
How close did you get to quitting on Dime?
2019 was a really hard year, failure. And I've never lost that much money. And so that hurt. That was a lot, like hard-earned sales money.
Yeah.
I don't come from money. And so every dollar, I felt like I was being an idiot, but I was like, what else do I have to, this is what I want to do. But I felt like I was stuck. Like maybe I can't be successful in this. Like I was starting to have these like doubts that maybe I'm not supposed to be an entrepreneur. I'm just supposed to be a sales guy like my father, who I respect. But just something inside me was like, no, just keep pushing, just keep pushing. And that's ultimately what I did. I mean, I'm not like the biggest numbers guy. I'm not like super book smart, failed in school, was a terrible student, probably C- average. Like Mitch is a very bright individual, high ACT score, which you'd hate that I said that. Worked hard to be book smart. I have ADHD. That's just not my thing. But I knew that if I could just work harder than the next guy and just not give up, I was eventually going to come across something. And something was going to work out.
Effort matters.
It's solely effort.
There's no question about it. Effort matters.
Yep.
Okay, so let's do just a quick 30,000 foot. Where are we today with Dime? You're in a new warehouse or maybe several warehouses.
Yeah.
You also have a product manufacturing offshoot.
Yep. Yeah, so Dime's in Draper, right up 123rd by the aquarium, by the claw.
Yes. What
weird.
is that thing?
I don't know.
Does
it's
anybody
weird.
know what that
Everyone
is?
thinks it brought COVID, so just kidding. So we're right there. We have our own building now there in Draper, and then we own a contract manufacturer now called Simple SMPL Manufacturing.
Gotcha.
Which really was just Dime. We bought machines from our old job that had some old machines. We bought them, brought them in for Dime. So Dime actually filled its own products for a long time. And then just Mitch and I being entrepreneurs and seeing opportunity, we said we could spin this off and do this for other brands. So we created Simple, and Simple fills for our brands, but then also now fills for other brands, which is really exciting.
Yeah, super exciting. The other part of your story I meant to mention was kind of this clean product that you put into the marketplace and how the consumer is becoming more knowledgeable. It feels like that was one of those other things where the stars aligned for the company. Like this was your idea, but it was also, maybe you were just responding to something that was happening in the market.
Yeah. I mean, we did our research and then we started to learn from our research. And then obviously like the resources and insights that we had in the industry were above others that were trying to get into skincare, I would say. I mean, literally knowing how formulas are made, ingredients that go into formulas, that's pretty good insight.
Yeah.
And so, starting to see the trends and starting to see, chemical sunscreens not being reef safe and like all these things started to now raise in people's awareness and being like, okay, wow, like we should be paying attention what's going on our skin and into our bodies. And so with that research, I mean, we believed in it. It was our standard too. And so seeing that research and just being like almost like validating us, like, okay, this is going to be a real thing. And so, yeah, I mean, it definitely was an opportunity. The stars aligned and we capitalized and just doubled down on our bet.
Yeah.
And it worked out. Luckily.
Absolutely. And people want to support things that feel authentic. And I think that is one of the things about Dime is that it does feel authentic.
It is. There's nothing wrong with the celebrity-based brands. They can make products that people enjoy. But that is kind of the differentiator we have is like, we're not celebrities. Bailey, as much as she's a celebrity in my life, she's not a celebrity. I know I'm smart. I've learned 10 years of marriage.
Yeah.
You know what to say.
That was good.
But she only has like 8,000 followers on Instagram. She doesn't have this large following. She is just a skincare professional that's knowledgeable.
Mm-hmm.
She's a mom of 4. Mitch and I are we come from product manufacturing with branding and marketing hearts and desires. And we started this solution because we knew it was going to be a great solution that would actually work for people and be better for people in the environment.
Yeah.
And so I think people are seeing that it's refreshing and almost rooting for the underdog. I don't know if we're considered an underdog, but like you put us against some of these celebrity brands, like not everyone knows about Dime yet. I mean, even today with how we've grown, if you ask 10 people who Dime is, maybe one says they know who us. And for us, that just means great potential and opportunity.
There's still a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Okay, before I let you go, I was going to ask you a few questions about what is the best thing to do? What's the advice you would give people? I think you've done that a lot throughout the podcast, which is, there's so many nuggets in there. I really appreciate all the insight. One thing you talked about is this idea of relentlessness.
Yeah.
And I think that really would resonate with entrepreneurs, just the ability to keep going and keep working hard. As you look back over all of this experience that you've had building this, what would you say is the best thing that you've done? Where do you think you really shine? Where could other entrepreneurs learn a lesson?
I don't know if it sounds cliche, but probably that grit, the relentlessness. I mean, we talked to other people starting businesses at the same time we were, and those businesses aren't around. And so it's hanging around during the really hard times. And I know you can say hard time, but experiencing the hard times, and like
the sleepless nights.
Yeah, it is like you learn a lot about yourself as a person. And failing like that with so much on the line, trying to be a provider. I mean, that was always the big thing for me. It was like, I couldn't be a failure to my wife and now kids. I got to provide them the life that they deserve, and that was always my focus. And so having that pressure. So for me, it was just the relentlessness, like be resilient, fail fast is a big one for Mitch and I. We say that a lot is you got to try things.
Yeah.
You will fail and that hurts, but learn from it and move on. And I know that sounds cliche, but that truly is like, there's not a secret recipe. It's actually like, I feel like people are always like, they listen to these podcasts for tons of insight, and these insights are amazing and it's inspiring. I mean, I listen to podcasts every day, but I think some people search for like this secret formula, and there's really not. It's go out and it's go do it and go fail, be resilient and try to be the best at what you're doing. You know, for me, like I'm not a chemist, but I would put myself up against any other brand in our space with skincare knowledge. And alongside my wife and Mitch, obviously, like we would go toe to toe with any brand, even that's 100 times bigger than us, with the knowledge that we have in the product space.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, is the Know Your Ship podcast on your podcast list?
Absolutely. I actually listened to him coming in.
Good.
So I was doing my homework.
Absolutely. I did the same.
I think I know my ship now. So.
You definitely know your ship.
Hard P.
If you could do anything different, is there something that you would do differently?
It's hard to say, honestly. Like I really appreciate everything I went through and all the mistakes. Like there were some dumb mistakes, like mistakes that probably were obvious, but I think just going through every single one of those, no, I don't think I would have traded it for anything. Like I don't think I would do it again differently.
Yeah. Well, you have You've done an amazing job. You've built an amazing business.
Thank you.
Along with really good partners. I think that's one of the things that we need to take away from this is really good partners.
People to lean on.
One last question.
Yeah.
I know this can be challenging.
Yeah.
But you work closely with the person you go home with at night. Like, is that challenging? Is that fulfilling? Is it all of those things?
Yeah.
How do you manage that?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I mean, even with Mitch, him and I work every single day. We talk all the time, and it feels like a marriage. Him and I, we joke about that all the time. But like for him, you know, he is now my brother. Like we have that relationship because we've been through so much. So for us to be successful, and this goes with me and Bailey as well, it's really defining what are we good at. And in the beginning, it was like, we're all good at everything. I'm going to be good at everything. But then as we grew, we realized the importance of having self-awareness. What am I good at? And what are you good at? Let's not step on each other's toes. Let's collaborate. Mm-hmm. You own this, I'll own this. And let's work really well together that way. And that has been like a game changer. So Bailey knows what I'm good at. I know what she's good at. I know what Mitch is good at. He knows what we're good at. And we don't step on each other's toes, but we're very collaborative. We're very informative. You know, I'll do this. I'll handle this. You trust me. Okay, I'll handle this. I'll do this. You trust me. And we were able to figure that out fairly early on. And that's been definitely a key to our success for our partnership and my marriage.
Amazing. Well, it's been inspirational. Could not appreciate your time more.
Wow, thank you so much.
Ryan Relf.
Thank you for having me.
We didn't think was going to turn into much, and look at him. You're all grown up.
It's true. I'm still not much. But go get Dime Beauty. It's good for you.
And if you ever need someone on your slow pitch softball team, this is your guy, right? It's
true.
Ryan Relf. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Know Your Ship podcast presented by eHub. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review.